Hey, well, welcome to Digital Detox, a pathway to mental clarity and connection for social workers, parents, and children. This is the second lesson in this course. So if you're seeing this on the first one and you're seeing this alone, we do have more available. We definitely invite you to come and take a look at the rest of those if you have not signed up for the full course. Um, there is a speaker box that is going to be in the upper right-hand corner. Depending on your digital device and what you're viewing this on, it might be in different places and spaces. Just know that it is going to be covering up some of the text and maybe one of the photos in this slide, in this presentation, but not to worry, you're still going to be able to see most things and everything. So just wanted to let you know about that. Okay, so Digital Detox, a pathway to mental clarity and connection for social workers, parents, and children by Red Lotus Life. This is an online course for a better understanding of digital detox support. So, just moving this. All right. Okay, so we wanted to do something on digital detox for members and for those of you who are seeking your education through Red Lotus Life because of the current times. We are in just very different times than we have been in, pretty much uncharted territory, especially when it comes to digital devices. They are in constant use. It doesn't matter if this is, our phones, if it's at work, if it's at school, just regular TV and streaming and online gaming, all of that. Everywhere we look, we are seeing digital devices and screen time. So with this constant use, we're starting to realize as a society that basically everyone is distracted. There's overwhelming feelings of isolation and most definitely overstimulation. And all of you who are in the mental health and wellness industry 100% can see that because there's also an overwhelming need for you. We're seeing all of that as well. And we've been hearing from all of you about how you are actually in a state of depletion. And so we wanted to teach on this a little bit and just not only for parents and children, but also for you all that are social workers or in the medical health and wellness or mental health and wellness field, because we're also noticing as we hear from all of you, you're saying that those you are working with are also in this heightened state. And so we want to be able to support you in whatever way that we can. This whole survival mode, let's help start to neutralize all of that and let's start to operate from a place of well-being. So thank you for being here with us today.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Just to piggyback off of what Lori was just sharing, because it is such new territory and really the research is just now starting to come in around the impact and the effects that digital devices actually have on us as a society. What we're seeing and what we're learning from our research that we have done is that we're actually seeing a mental health crisis. We have increased anxiety, we have increased suicide rates, we have, online bullying, just many things that we're going to be touching base upon throughout this presentation, as well as the lack of connection from self, the lack of connection from nature, and just the lack of connection from the body.
Yeah. So are we ready to dive into this?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So welcome. In this course, we'll focus on how to support social workers, parents, and children break digital overwhelm and restore balance. We assume that all of you who are taking this course are to some extent knowledgeable in the area of digital devices, the overwhelm they can create, and intend to expand upon that knowledge base. You will learn self-awareness, boundaries, and mindful tech use to improve focus, well-being, and relationships. Gain practical tools to support healthy digital habits at home, in schools, and in communities. So yes, we hope that you will go, and like I said, this is offered as a single course, like this lesson right here. It's also offered as a full course, the complete course that we're doing. So really excited for you to expand upon your knowledge base here. Okay, so today's team. I am Lori Kinsey. I'm an advanced spiral practitioner. A little bit about me. I'm a survivor of domestic violence. And on my healing journey, I came across the spiral and became a spiral practitioner. And it has been amazing with the work that we do in breaking cycles of abuse, domestic abuse, and also in the trafficking. So I do specialize in domestic violence, abuse, and human trafficking. And it's been really, really beautiful to bring the work that we do as spiral practitioners into ASWB and into the continued education of social workers. It's been amazing. Also here is Sarah Elizabeth Hoffman, who is a co-creator here with this course and this lesson. She's a certified spiral practitioner. She specializes in nonviolent communication, inner child work, dissociation, and embodiment. And then together we create Red Lotus Life. So Red Lotus Life is this global network. It's of students of life. We love connecting survivors to resources, provide education to those who are working directly with victims, survivors of domestic abuse, domestic violence, and human trafficking here too. So we go pretty deep into this work. We absolutely love breaking cycles. And when we got offered the opportunity to do something on digital detox and digital devices, we were like, heck yes, we accepted the challenge. And we said, yes, we're going to create this course because, man, we love experimenting with ourselves first. So, all right, here you go.
Okay. So these are the online course objectives for this first presentation on self-awareness. So the first objective is to gain a better understanding. So in doing so, we're going to explain the impact of digital consumption on mental clarity, self-discipline, and overall well-being. We're then going to define the practical strategies. In order to do that, we're going to describe the practical strategies for setting boundaries, improving self-awareness, and for fostering meaningful connections. We're then going to state the actionable steps. So by listing the actionable steps to take inventory, we're going to implement self-care and then maintain accountability in the digital detox process. So just wanted to welcome everyone. Today, we're going to dive into the objectives of the online course just a little bit deeper now. And first, we're going to talk about gaining a better understanding of the impact of digital consumption. So it's crucial to recognize how our interactions with technology affect our mental clarity, our self-discipline, and our overall well-being. By becoming aware of these impacts, we can make more informed choices about our digital habits. So the next thing that we're going to do would be, again, to define the practical strategies that will help you set boundaries. This is all about improving self-awareness and fostering those meaningful connections, both online and offline. It's not just about reducing screen time, it's about making that time more meaningful. And lastly, we'll discuss actionable steps for taking the inventory of your digital habits. And in doing so, we will be implementing self-care and maintaining accountability. Those are vital in the digital detox process. And we're going to be remembering that it's not just about cutting back, it's about creating a healthier relationship with technology. So moving forward, we're going to explore how we can take ownership of our digital habits. Moving on to the next slide. So self-accountability, taking ownership of digital habits for parents, children, and social workers. So this section focuses on self-discipline and accountability in managing digital habits. By taking ownership of our screen time, we empower ourselves, our families, our communities to create a balanced emotional life. So again, welcome to our presentation on self-accountability in managing digital habits. Today, we're going to dive into the importance of taking ownership of our screen time. Firstly, by empowerment. By being accountable, we not only empower ourselves, but also our families. This is important for creating a balanced and intentional life. Secondly, it's the impact on our well-being. Think about how our digital habits affect our mental clarity and self-discipline. It's essential for all of us, parents, children, and social workers, to recognize this impact. And thirdly, we're going to be creating balance. So in our connected world, it's easy to lose sight of what matters. By focusing on accountability, we can foster healthier relationships with technology. So then let's explore how can we implement these ideas and strategies into our daily lives. It's all about making mindful choices that benefit us and those around us. Moving on to self-accountability objectives. So here we have the self-accountability objectives for this specific presentation. The previous ones were for the overarching course. The entire course is going to be 11 presentations long. So the first objective for self-awareness is to explain the role of self-discipline in our digital habits. We're then going to describe the strategies for parents, children, and social workers to foster accountability. We'll then list actionable steps to create a balanced digital lifestyle. So in this section, again, we're diving deep into self-accountability, which is a critical aspect of managing our digital habits. So first, let's explore the role of self-discipline in our digital lives. It is essential to understand how our choices impact our mental clarity and overall well-being. And by recognizing the influence of screens, we can begin to take control rather than let screens control us. So the next thing I'd like to do is to highlight some strategies specifically designed for parents, children, and social workers. This is a collective responsibility. Each group plays a pivotal role in encouraging accountability. And together, we can create an environment that encourages mindful digital consumption. So finally, we are going to discuss the actionable steps that can help us all cultivate a balanced digital lifestyle. And these steps will empower us to take inventory of our screen time and implement self-care practices that truly do matter. Moving on to the next slide, please. So here, Lori and I would like to share a powerful quote from Jonathan Haidt, who is the author of The Anxious Generation. In this new phone-based childhood, free play, attunement, and local models for social learning are replaced by screen time, asynchronous interactions, and influencers chosen by algorithms. Children are, in a sense, deprived of childhood. So this statement highlights a major concern in our digital age. The first one being that we need to recognize how screen time is impacting our children's development and social learning. It's not just about limiting screen time, it's about understanding what they're missing out on when they are glued to their devices. This is a really, really important awareness. Secondly, as parents and caregivers, we have a responsibility to model healthier habits. This means that being intentional about how we use technology ourselves is very important. When we take ownership of our digital habits, we are setting a positive example for our children. We are being the role models. And thirdly, ultimately, self-accountability empowers us all, parents, children, and social workers, to reclaim our time and create a balanced lifestyle. So as we are moving forward, let's explore how we can foster that accountability and take actionable steps towards a healthier relationship with technology. Lori, do you have anything to add here about this quote?
Oh my gosh.
Points?
Like, oh my gosh, I have so much to add here. So this is one of our favorite books here. Amazing, amazing book. So, all right. I wanted to talk about each key point that you just brought up, if that's okay. And then maybe let's have a little discussion about that, because I know that both of us are so passionate about this piece about children being deprived of their childhood. And I think every single one of us, unless you are, what was it? Well, when we were doing research for this program and this course, we realized, what was it? I always forget which generation it was. Not Gen Z. It doesn't matter. Basically, at the time of this recording, if you are in your early 20s, you're the first generation that's been raised with the internet and digital devices, like basically anything that's more than a TV screen, right? TV or radio or something like that. And so
these were the children that were born around 2010.
Okay, so 2010. So I know, like, how many times do we sit there and go, it wasn't like this when we were kids. It wasn't like this when we were kids. And so whenever it's this deprivation of childhood, that these kids are just getting lost in their screens because they're literally everywhere, and it's so normal for them too. So now here we are as Red Lotus Life, we're all about breaking cycles. So let's break the cycle. Let's see what we can do about this, because we still can. It's all about awareness. And where this is also new, I think a lot of us, me included, as a parent, didn't quite realize what exactly was happening. But now we're starting to get the research, the studies, we're starting to see the results of our kids being deprived of childhood and being raised on screens. So yeah, let's talk about that first key point, if you don't mind. Like, I am noticing the results of this, right? I'm noticing that the kids are missing out on social cues. We're seeing a lack of emotional intelligence development. We're also noticing there's not an ability to cultivate like meaningful relationships, like that connection. We're seeing a lack of that. And then most definitely seeing a lack of self, as these kids are starting to now grow into adults, and we're starting to be part of the adult world. So, and part of society. So yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the social cues. What are you noticing?
Well, what I'm noticing is that while children and adults alike actually are so used to being connected in the online space, it's a much different thing when we are connecting in person. And so what we see is a little bit more awkwardness, um, the sometimes inability to be able to communicate in person. They aren't really taking the initiative to not only interact, but actually try to make the connections. They're really missing out on free play. They're missing out on what we're really seeing. The research is telling us that there's actually a failure to start as
Mhm.
young adults.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think one of the things with the social cues is that body language, right? Whenever we're able to communicate and we're seeing each other, like, yeah, we can talk all day long online. I mean, and we can communicate through chat boxes and this and that, whatever, and text and everything else. But it's like when you are actually interacting with somebody in real time, you're able to pick up on the body language, on the energy of somebody else. I mean, our energy speaks for us anyway. And so it's these social cues. I'm also really noticing um, when we are communicating, and this is as parents, as even those of us who are practitioners in the mental health and wellness industry, when we are communicating through text or email or something like that, we also are missing these social cues, right? A lot of times, like I always will say, this is a conversation to be had in person. You know, if this is something, we need to talk, and I'll immediately call somebody or something like that. But what I'm noticing with the younger generations is that they don't have that. And then there's a lot of miscues because how can you tell? How can you tell? You can't tell by a text how somebody's tone is or anything like that. And so there all these stories start to develop in their mind. So a lot of unnecessary um, drama, I'll just say that, unnecessary drama tends to a lot of miscommunication. Let me
Right.
put it that way. A lot of miscommunication happens, which can also spin these kids out, and then they're not able to like come back to that, right? So whenever we have this play and we're playing the free play, and the kids are able to be out there on the playground with each other, or even in the neighborhood or whatever, they're able to have these conversations in real time with each other. And so when there are little disputes or something like that, then they're not able to actually, or they're able to learn, yeah, and develop that emotional intelligence now, right? Let's go into emotional intelligence. They're starting to be able to develop that and cultivate that and be able to relate with others in a way that comes organically.
Yeah, and when they're able to actually pick up on the social cues, when you're able to actually hear the tone of voice, when you're actually able to hear the inflection in the voice, then you're able to actually begin to communicate in ways that bring awareness. So what we're really trying to do here is to bring whatever is in the unconscious into the conscious awareness.
Mhm. Yeah, there's so much that goes into anything. I mean, even, I feel like a lot of times people are scared to even express themselves because of a possible miscommunication. So let's say somebody's, making fun or sarcasm or something like that. You can't pick that up unless you know the person through text or email or anything like that. So there's a lot that actually goes into this. This is very layered, and we go deeper into this as throughout this course. So um, yeah, it's pretty amazing what we've discovered and how it's just been fun. It's been fun to cultivate and develop this one. So let's talk about the ability to cultivate meaningful relationships. Like how is childhood and being able to cultivate meaningful relationships?
Well, I think that it really starts with the parents at this point. When the parents are on devices at all the time and they're not connecting with their children, there's a lack of presence. Then how can we possibly cultivate that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's not a model for them. There's not, I mean, again, it comes into interacting in real time, right? Interacting
Mhm.
in real life in real time. So I'm excited to go deeper into all of this as well. And then the last thing that I really noticed was the sense of self. And what I mean by that is when when we're just constantly being entertained by screens, when did we ever actually start to cultivate that sense of self and what our true interests are? And not,
Mhm.
especially when, we can talk about social media platforms and algorithms and all of that. I think we go into that deeper as we go in throughout this course, but it's like when we are dictated by algorithms and we're young children and this is what this is what we're being raised on, how can we, I feel like we're getting deprived, or we're seeing our kids deprived from that sense of self. And then there's that lack of self-confidence, that lack of self-esteem, and that lack of direction where you just talked about that failure to launch.
Yes, absolutely. And in addition to all of those things, they are disconnected from their creativity. They're disconnected from nature. They're disconnected from um, the ability to even create the meaningful relationship dynamics that they're going to need moving on into adolescence, young adulthood, and adulthood to be able to even maintain a partnership.
Mhm. Oh, 100%. So now, bringing up the point that you talked about, that second point about the role models and the parents, right?
Hmm.
The kids become a product of their parents. It's just is. It's known. We can see that everywhere. It's called generational conditioning. I mean, we are a product of our parents. And so whenever in here at Red Lotus Life, it's all about breaking those cycles, right? And so what we want to do here is really bring into the awareness of that parents do need to become self-aware. And I was one of those parents when smartphones and everything first came out. I didn't, I was texting, I was on the phone I was on my own device all the time. And I was very much a parent that was, um, don't do what I do what I say. I mean, in the very
Hmm.
beginning, right? Because that's when everything was first coming out. My children are adults now, but when everything was just starting to come out, and I didn't realize. And yes, we all, like as parents, sometimes we'll put a screen in front of our children because like we need a break or we need to cook dinner, we need to get something done, right?
Right.
Um, but the thing is when we really do need to be that role model of not necessarily doing that. That was one of the big things that I had to shift and break a cycle in is it's not do what I say. It's do what I
Do
do.
what I do.
Yeah, because I am an example for them. I am the role model for them. And how are they ever going to learn a new way of being if it's not me showing the way as a parent? So I'm excited to go deeper into all of this as we go throughout this presentation.
Mm.
Oh, you know
Yeah.
what? There was one more thing I wanted to bring up right here before we move into the next slide. And that
Hmm.
was also, I feel like this whole, oh, we haven't even done point three. Okay, so this goes into point three, actually. So this whole thing about empowerment, right? When we're talking about self-accountability, that is so huge because when we are the ones that hold ourselves accountable, talk about empowerment, right? Like that is when we feel as if we are empowered. And whenever we feel like we are empowered, that also gives a feeling of control, right? So whenever
Hmm.
we have this self-accountable ability, this feeling of control and it's our choice and it's on our terms and all of that. Now it's building confidence and now it's building self-esteem. But not only that, but whenever we hold ourselves accountable and we're the ones to say, hey, I made a mistake or I did this or I did that, it's like now this is where now our children are able to develop their ethics, their morals, and their values. So then this is now coming into that sense of self. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Self-accountability is empowering in so many ways. When we are able to be self-accountable, that means that we are able to actually exhibit discipline, self-discipline. And without self-discipline, we really can't be empowered. We're giving our power away. We are giving our power away to energy leaks, to our devices, to others many times. And we can even feel more like that we are actually supposed to be accountable to others. But really and truly, the most empowering thing is to be accountable to ourselves. Because when we're accountable to ourselves, then we take back our power.
And we can do that even as children. I think this is one of the biggest things, that sometimes, depending on the culture of where you live, it's giving the children the power, like realizing that they have power, they do have control, things are on their terms. Otherwise, those emotions come out sideways. And I know that that's a lot of what happened in my household whenever I'd say, like, do it my way, just do it, like, just do it my way, do what I say, not what I do type thing. But whenever our kids have this sense of control and them doing it on their terms, oh my gosh, things go so much more smoothly.
So much more smoothly.
Mm-hmm.
It's a more controlled environment. There's not the chaos with the overstimulation, notifications coming from every direction.
All right, Sarah, well, is there anything else that you wanted to add to this?
Not at this time.
Okay.
Just going to say, so as we move forward, let's explore how we can foster that accountability and take actionable steps towards a healthier relationship with technology. So here we are going to take a moment to reflect on the power of choice in our digital lives. So have you ever felt like screens are controlling your time instead of the other way around? Taking responsibility for our digital habits helps us reclaim our time and focus. So have you ever felt like screens are controlling your time instead of the other way around? This is a common experience for so many of us today. Taking responsibility for our digital habits is crucial. It's how we can reclaim our time, energy, productivity, focus, and connection. So I'd love for you to remember, this isn't just an individual effort. Parents, children, and social workers all play a significant role in fostering self-discipline. And as we explore this concept, we'd love for you to think about how you can influence your own digital habits and those around you. How can you model that behavior? I'd love to hear, Lori, if you have anything else before we transition to the next slide.
I love this. I love this part about this first question here. Have you ever felt like screens are controlling your time instead of the other way around? Because I mean, as we did this digital detox program, we did it ourselves. We always like to do these things with ourselves first before we ever ask anybody else to. So as we were doing that, I honestly was like, oh yeah, this is it. No, it'll be easy. It's not a big deal. And then I realized, holy moly, so much of my time was controlled by these screens. It was unreal, and I didn't quite realize it. So I love this part about fostering self-discipline, because whenever we foster self-discipline, that actually equals self-confidence. It really does. When we have the discipline, now it's just this, we know we have this innate ability to now create life on our terms, I guess. Like, it's that empowerment piece again.
Right.
We're no longer giving our power away. When we're no longer giving our power away, now we have the confidence to live these incredible lives. So this part about um, fostering the self-discipline here. And the reclaiming, to me, what that translates into is now a development of high standards and an elevated way of being. Because I noticed when my children or even myself, right? Myself, I'll just use myself as an example here. Whenever I'm in the algorithm and I'm
Yeah.
just a consumer of whatever's being put in front of me, depending on what's being put in front of me, my way of being totally tanks. I mean, now all of a sudden I'm looking like we're being marketed to, right? With the algorithms, we're being marketed to. And so now all of a sudden I'm starting to notice, um, like let's say beauty products or anti-aging things or whatever. And then my self-esteem starts to plummet because now I'm starting to look at these things because our devices also listen to us. And so that's how these algorithms, so it's almost like, are the problems and issues and challenges that we have in our lives are being listened to, and now we're getting marketed to for this. And so if our devices are hearing our children and our conversations with our children, now this is all being marketed to as well. So when like I did notice my standards started to go low, I started to have a lower self-esteem and just kind of going, oh man, like, do I need to remove a beauty mark, or do I need to, like, do I need Botox? Do I need, do I need different things in my life because something is telling me I do? And that goes deep into the subconscious and unconscious. And so I love this part about really having it in our awareness, fostering the self-discipline to create the self-confidence, right? And then what happens then is now these higher standards and this more elevated way of being, because that's exactly what I've been experiencing as I've been detoxing myself from all of this.
Yes, when we don't have all of the distractions, all of the algorithms, all of like everything that's keeping us looping, and it's very, very intentional. It's very intentional in order to keep us distracted, to keep us out of our bodies, to keep us in the online space, in our devices, and it causes us to be, it is causing us to not be present. It is causing us to not be empowered. And again, it goes back to those energy leaks. And when we're able to take responsibility for those habits, we're reclaiming our sovereignty truly. We are coming back to the body, coming back into alignment, back to our inner knowing. And now we're able to increase our creativity, increase our productivity. We're able to we're now fostering the environment for motivation, fostering the environment for service to others, whether that be in the family, in the workplace, in schools, in society.
Mhm. I love that you even brought up that part about the environment, right? Like that is when we're able to create our own environment. When we have algorithms creating our environment for us, that's a problem.
Right.
In the book, The Anxious Generation, they talk about this, and I wish I had her name right now, but I don't off the top of my head. But they talk about free play and how it's related to a garden,
Mm.
and our children like are related to like a garden. And when we're able to just create this nourishing environment for our children, how they grow and blossom, and they provide this fruit that we didn't even expect, like in ways that we didn't even expect, just like a garden. So it's very, very interesting when we start to look at our environment and what kind of environment is being created. And especially like I was a parent that everything was so new, at that time. And I didn't understand what was happening. I didn't understand algorithms. I didn't understand all that. Yes, I understood marketing, but I didn't understand the algorithms. And I thought that it was all just these platforms and, everything that was, okay for me as an adult, but I never once thought about that for my children. Like I didn't even pick, I had zero awareness around that. So that's why all of this is really great. I think that we're talking about this and going deeper into it. We actually went really deep into self-awareness in the first presentation. So if you're catching this on two, we invite you to go take a look at that one. So yeah, is there anything else you wanted to add here?
Um, Not at this time, actually. There was a point that I was going to make, but I'm not recalling it right now. So let's dive into why self-accountability truly matters. So as we are moving into our discussion on self-accountability, let's first acknowledge how we all have the power to shape our habits and our routines. So why does self-accountability matter? Again, we have the power to shape our habits and our routines. For parents, we're going to model responsible tech use for our children. And for social workers, we're going to support families in building healthy accountability strategies. So what we know is that it's essential to recognize that parents can play a pivotal role here. And by modeling responsible tech use, parents only teach their children about healthy habits, not only teach their children about healthy habits, but they're also demonstrating the importance of self-discipline in a tech-driven world. Now, we're going to think about the role of social workers and mental health providers in our communities. All have a unique opportunity to support families in building these healthy accountability strategies. It's not just about limiting screen time, it's about creating an environment of open communication and understanding. So just to summarize these points here, number one, parents should be modeling responsible tech use. Number two, social workers need to aid families in developing accountability. And number three, we all have the power to shape our habits. So as we're moving forward, we want to consider how these roles can interplay in your own life or community. Do you have anything that you would like to share here, or should we move on to the next slide?
Yeah, I love this. This is so our jam. This is probably my favorite part of this presentation right here. It's the power to shape our habits and routines. And when we realize that we have the power to create our own lives, everything changes. When we realize that something does not have power over us, that is when we actually have the ability to shift. We shift and we get to go, no, taking the power back. And when we realize that it's devices that have the power over us, I mean, that's a whole different ballgame. How does an object have power over us? And that goes into the dopamine hits and all kinds of things, which many of you are very aware of. So I think we go into that a little deeper into another presentation, but when we actually have it in our awareness that something has power over us and it's a digital device that has it, now we have the ability to change that. It creates that awareness. And so now we have the ability to go in and go, no, not today. This is not happening today. So I love this part. It all begins with self-accountability. Because once we have that self-accountability, now we have the power. We have the power to create our lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anything else here?
No, I think we can move on to the next slide. So here we're going to be taking a look at the accountability practical steps. So for parents and adults, We want to set clear personal screen time goals, create touch-free time zones, touch tech-free times or zones in the home. And for children, we want to use reward systems for mindful screen use, encouraging responsibility and managing digital time. And for social workers, we'd like to guide families in setting realistic screen time agreements and teach strategies for self-monitoring and discipline. So as we're discussing accountability, we're going to again focus on some practical steps that we can all take. So for parents and adults, it is essential to set clear personal screen time goals. These goals are not just numbers. They're about creating tech-free times or zones at home to foster healthier habits and then following through in order to remain accountable. So now I'd like to share just a few examples of both tech-free zones as well as tech-free times. So as we know from the research that we've done, there are many schools that are beginning to implement phone-free classrooms. They may be far and few between, but we have heard of several successful schools that have had extraordinary shifts by taking phones out of the classroom. Another tech-free zone would be like the dining room table or the kitchen. That is where we connect with questions about your day. We're connecting with our family members. We're connecting whoever we are in that space with. Another tech-free zone might be our bedrooms. So that would be in order to promote relaxation, restful sleep for adults, intimacy, and connection. Some examples of tech-free time would be 1 to 2 hours after waking in the morning to start the day grounded and intentional before checking our devices, maybe during meals and in order to have mindful eating and connection. During family time or playtime, which would create presence and engaged interactions that will build strong relationships. Creative or focus time. We just want to eliminate distractions so that we can actually really get into that space of creativity and be able to focus. Another example would be during our nature walks or exercise in order to connect to our bodies and to nature without distraction from our devices. And then just anything that we can really break up the habits of scrolling during our routine. So things like going to the bathroom. You know, so many times we take that phone in there with us, and whether maybe we're taking a bath or maybe just really even sitting on the toilet. And what are we doing? Scrolling. And then just the outdoors so that we can embrace the presence in nature. For children, setting up playrooms, and I know, Lori, you have something to share about this, in order to encourage active play without screens. And then I love this example of reading nooks or meditation spaces, which would encourage analog relaxation like books or mindful silence. And then I believe there's just that is it for those. What would you like to share around tech times and tech zones?
Oh man. You know, I do love this because it It's so good. Like, it's so cool to see what happens when you do set up a tech-free zone and or
Mhm.
even tech-free times. It's amazing what happens during that time together or even a time alone. Like, it's amazing what happens. You're out of the head and into the body, and then all of a sudden you do start to come alive. I remember the very first time that I started to introduce this into my household and into my family. Um, it was hard at first. I do remember that. There was a lot of irritability, a lot of pushback, resistance, all of that. But then, wow, the things that started to blossom and bloom. And this is when we all really got to know each other and really got to support each other as a family. So I love the part that you brought up about nature, playrooms, and the reading nooks. So I do have like some examples here. Nature is huge. I mean, I live in southern Utah. If nobody's familiar with southern Utah, it's very active. It's very much outdoor. I live in the red rocks and the canyons and the big boulders and all of that. So nature is very much a thing. In fact, there's not a lot to do here unless you're out in nature because I live in a smaller town. But what was really cool is that my kids have grown up here with it. And they were always outside. I just generally, as a family, we were always outside. We've always been in the backyard. We've been on the patio. My kids are very much into outdoor activities, but hiking has been huge for us. So, like, we would go hiking. We'd go down to the river. We would go to national parks that are near us. It didn't matter. We went outside. We went out in nature. And for me, back then, cell phones were expensive. They still are. They've gotten even more expensive. And so for me, I was creating a tech-free time and didn't even realize it. I just didn't want them to break their device. And so for me, I was like, you got to leave it home. Like, I'm leaving it home. You got to leave it home. And I remember at the time, my daughter was preteen at the time, and she was really all about, like, it was cool because the cameras, right? The cameras on the phone. So she was able to take her own images and stuff like that. And she always wanted to take her own photos to show her friends. So what we ended up doing is I went and got just cheap disposable cameras, and they each got their own camera. And then they got to actually document their time together, that also is super cool because you can't delete it, right? And so there's this whole thing about it doesn't have to be perfect. You're just going to put something in the screen and it's what you like, and then you take the picture. And then I would go and we'd get it developed or whatever, and they'd have their own photo albums of whatever they wanted to do. It was always amazing. My son ended up getting a Polaroid camera at one point. I guess it was like a little one. I'm not sure. I can't remember at this time, but I mean, he was all about that. And then if we had friends and stuff come with us, or they had friends, then they were giving out these like little mementos, right? This little like memory of our time together. So that was always really amazing. We also would go to the lake, like, and that was another thing. No, you can't bring a digital device. I didn't want it to like get dumped in the water or something. And so what happened then? Like, now we're swimming, we're paddleboarding, we're kayaking, we're laying on the beach or on the shore, we're fishing, we're doing all of those things. And again, it's amazing what happens not only as you cultivate connection with your family members and your children, like, that's when all these conversations get had and you start to really understand like who they are and what are some challenges and things that they're going through, but also what are some really amazing things that are happening in their lives. And it's amazing with even the connection to nature, right? And what happens when we're in nature and how that regulates our nervous system, just being in nature. So, and moving our bodies and getting the vitamin D and all of that. Another thing that I did was the park. We loved the park. We had parks pretty close to us. We actually had parks that weren't close to us. Parks are different. Different parks have different things. And I just remember having this big bag. And in this bag, I had all of these activities that we could do, whether that was like the little bases that you could buy at the dollar store and a kickball. Now you're able to play kickball, or if it was like frisbees or just anything like that. I would just bring all of it together basketball, whatever. And then we would choose what we wanted to do at that time. And sometimes that was nothing. Sometimes I was looking up at the sky and just, making shapes out of clouds and stuff like that, which was really cool because then that gets their creativity going, and not only theirs, but ours, right? It was cool to be able to see what my children see because they never saw the same thing. So, those are just a couple of ways to do something like that. When it comes to the playroom and the reading nook, I actually have a very good friend that has young children, and I have very rarely seen them on a device. The only screen I have actually ever seen them on is a TV screen, and that's it. And she has this amazing reading nook, and she also has an amazing playroom. And one of the things that she does in this playroom is that it is just for them. So her children are, at the time of this recording, um, elementary school age, and they are the most well-behaved kids I've ever seen, and very smart, like very smart kids, and they're funny. Like their personalities are super cool. I love to play with them. I love to create with them. We do art projects. We cook together. I mean, all kinds of things. And one of the things that I've noticed, my husband and I both, as we go and we spend time with them, these kids are always in their playroom, always. And there's different setups in this playroom. They have like a setup over here that is just straight up like for art projects. So it's different kinds of art and art supplies and stuff like that. There's another setup over here that is about building things. And so they're able to go in and act literally like there's like hammer, nails, wood, like things like that. And so I like this idea because they're able to also understand you could get hurt, right? Like you could get hurt, don't hurt somebody else. All of they're learning safety whenever they have this stuff. So they have like hammers and nails and like a ruler and a pencil and things like that to like create a line and do they make things, or they just pound things into a block of wood, which is really, really fun. Then there's another area that is just like cardboard boxes and like a play set. So like this is like where the little playhouse is. This is also where there's like a tea set or something like that. And then there's cardboard boxes that have been made into rocket ships, different things. It's amazing because it's almost like their playtime of their imagination in that way. Like um when you're playing house or you're cooking, there's even like a little kitchen set, like there's stuff like that there. And then on this other side, there's this place where they actually learn. And I don't really know, they were learning at the time Chinese. And
Mm.
so there was all these like Chinese symbols and stuff like that up on the wall, like from the Chinese alphabet and the number system and all of that. And it was cool because she had all of that on the wall. Then she had supplies there where they could actually recreate the characters of the alphabet. So even just doing that, and they could do it with markers or crayons or pencils or whatever it was, right? And they could play with recreating these characters, which was really amazing. So their playroom was awesome. I mean, it is awesome. And they're always in it and they're always having a blast. Then they also have this reading nook. And this is what blew my mind, okay? Because my children, they were like this until the devices came. So there's the girl is the oldest child, and then there's the son. And they are constantly reading to each other. Constantly reading to each other. They're constantly going into this little nook. It's very cozy. It's kind of not dim, but not bright. Like it's just it has a cozy feel, a cozy vibe, cozy places to sit, blankets, stuff like that. And then like all of their favorite books. And they just get to go and choose whatever they want. And they're always on their own. Hey, do you want me to read this story to you? Do you want me to go and read they're constantly reading to each other. So that has been just such a beautiful development to see. And I've seen it now in their emotional intelligence, the way, like I said, the safety, right? They're able to interact with us even though they're super young. They're funny, their personalities are amazing. They know what they like, they know who they are. They're sassy in a way, like they know their boundaries and they enforce them even though they're in elementary school. And they do it in a way that is not coming out sideways. They do it in a way that they actually get a very like that communication, right, that we're going to be talking about soon. It's this they're able to communicate it in a way that isn't just them getting shut down. So they have that control. If they feel as if they're in control, they are in control. And it's just been it's amazing. It's incredible to see. They have like rope swings in the backyard that they're constantly on and all kinds of stuff. It's super fun to see what has happened in this family because they 100% limit devices and screen time.
Such a beautiful example. Thank you for sharing all of that.
Yeah. I
It
have
just,
a
go
hmm?
ahead.
Oh, I
I
was
was
gonna
gonna
say I
say,
have a couple more things, but if you wanted me to like, yeah, let's talk about it. I want to hear what you have to share and say.
oh, no, that's all I was gonna share is that it's just such a beautiful example, and that is truly the change that we wish to see,
Yeah,
getting back to that, back to basics.
yeah, and it's fun too because they're healthy. Like not only their mental health, but also their physical body. Like they're very healthy, happy kids, and it's so fun to be around that.
Hmm.
Yeah. I have some things here on the reward system and agreements, but I don't know if you have something on this as well.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so I have some ideas here. I love this part about the children and user reward system
Hmm.
for mindful use because I mean that's the thing, right? If they're not going to get the dopamine hit from a screen, then it's great to get like to be able to reward them in a way that is in alignment with the parents. One of the things that we always did was go out for ice cream. Like that was one of the biggest things. My kids loved it. I loved it. Anytime that there was something to celebrate or something that we did was, hey, do you want to go get some milkshakes? Like, let's go get some milkshakes. And then what happens whenever we get the milkshakes and we're either sitting around the table there or if we go to the park or we take it back home, we're again together and then we're able to talk about exactly what we did to get this time together, right? And it's so fun because now we're able to, as parents, go wow and really encourage kids to accomplish things, to set their mind to something, set a goal, and then actually do it, and see how they get rewarded for that. The other thing that I would do too is activities. We love to do like mini golf or bowling if there were puzzles, we always had puzzles in our house. And so if they wanted to go get a new puzzle or even go get a new game, something like that was always something that was amazing. And even art stuff, that was another thing. It's like, wait, let's go to the art store. Let's go. Like, what do you want? What do you want to do to celebrate? So that was always really fun. Um, Social workers here with this part about the agreements. Um, There is something really cool here that I wanted to share. Let me just double check and make sure it's on this one. Yeah, okay, so with this one, it's for the agreements, like a realistic agreement, is to take the small steps, right? Let's like not like a huge step because honestly, to detox from digital screens, it's actually difficult, especially in this day and age, right? It's difficult to do. There's going to be a lot of resistance and things like that. So one of the things that's really great for a social worker to introduce is ask the parent and the child to just name what's one habit they're going to shift and change this week. Like, so an example for like a parent would be not having their phone right next to their bed. Right? Like, okay, well, I'm not going to have my phone because it's so easy. It's usually the first thing we look at when we go to before we go to sleep. It's also the first thing we look at when we wake up, especially if you use it as an alarm clock. So just not having that, something really simple like that is actually going to feel big. And then like the kids, they can just, oh, I'm gonna do something else before I hop onto my game. I'm gonna get a chore done or something like that before they hop onto game time with their friends. And then the way that I would actually reward for this one with my son, it would always be an upgrade to something that he was doing. Like anything on wheels, that was his thing. So it'd be like whatever upgrade he wanted, or if he wanted to go to a certain like skate park or something like that, then that would be his reward. And then my daughter was very much into art projects and like she was making those bracelets,
Mhm.
like the friendship bracelets and stuff. And so if she wanted like new beads, or she would also be really big into poetry. And so if she had wanted a new poetry journal or something like that, which now that would be the side like that's the side result. What side effect? That's a side effect. When kids aren't on tech screens all the time and tech devices all the time, now all of a sudden their creativity and what they actually really want to do starts to come out. And so if you're able to reward them with these activities that actually don't have to do with digital screens, it's such a win-win for everyone. So, yeah.
Totally a win-win for everyone. The rewards work.
Mhm. Yeah. Anything more to add to that one?
No, I think we're ready to move on to the next slide. And we're just also remembering that accountability isn't just about the rules, it's also about building a supportive environment for everyone that is involved. So here now, we are going to be identifying the challenges. Um, For adults, recognizing the struggle with self-discipline is the first step towards the change. For children, we're going to be helping kids understand that setting limits is a form of self-care, which I love this because we're actually going to do an entire presentation on self-care. And then for social workers, we want to encourage open conversation about digital struggles without judgment. So again, we're going to identify the challenges that we face regarding our digital habits. Firstly, for adults, whether that is parents, caregivers, or teachers, it's important to recognize that acknowledging our struggle with self-discipline is a crucial first step towards change. So this realization can actually be really empowering and should be approached with kindness towards ourselves. So for children, what we're really wanting to do is to help them understand that setting limits on screen time isn't just a restriction, it's actually a form of self-care. Again, this perspective can make a big difference in how they view their digital interactions. And lastly, for social workers, it is essential to encourage open conversations about digital struggles and to do so without judgment. This is really important, this piece about without judgment. The supportive environment will foster trust and openness, which is key to helping families navigate their challenges, their digital challenges. And so by painting a clear picture of these challenges, we are then preparing the way for effective solutions. I'd love to hear your thoughts here,
I
Lori.
love, yeah, I love this because, yeah, we're going to be now instilling this importance, right? It's so important to have self-care. And I think this is something that a lot of us don't under. I wasn't taught this as a child. I wasn't modeled this as a child either. It wasn't modeled within my family. Um, so I think this is huge because it's also a thing where I don't think we realize that our self-care goes out the window the more time that we spend on screens.
Mhm.
So the thing here as I'm looking over this and it's like, honestly, when we talk about, I mean, some of us adults, we're going to understand like what life was like before because we talk about it. It wasn't like this before. But the kids don't. The kids don't, they don't know what it was like before. There's going to be zero reference point of what life feels like, what peace actually feels like for them, what a regulated nervous system feels like after they're not stimulated as much anymore. And it really just, it comes back to like Sarah Elizabeth and I, we will never we will never teach something or ask somebody to do something unless we've done it first and we've seen huge results, not only in ourselves, our families, our children, but also our clients. And so it really is going through this first because it's only when we go through it first that now we can share with others what to expect whenever you do go through the detox because it's going to be hard. You're going to feel like the body goes through all these different changes. We were talking about it and going, wow, it's so crazy to like think of being addicted to digital devices is actually an addiction. But yeah, the body actually went through the exact same process as detoxing from anything else that we put into the body, like sugar, alcohol, drugs. I mean, anything like that, right? But the body still went through that process of not needing that hit, not having that release of chemicals in our body, all of that, and having to learn how to like that craving, right? To overcome the craving and everything else. So I feel the biggest thing here is and it goes with the without judgment. The only way that any of us are going to actually be in integrity with this judgment piece, I feel, is to actually go through it ourselves and to be able to be that example. And then now, as a practitioner, we were able to share with our clients and the people that we work with and go, okay, this is what you're going to expect. Because a lot of times people are like, oh yeah, no big deal. No big deal. We can do this. But you give them that. But then also the other part here about the self-care is now if somebody doesn't have a reference point, now you're able to even say, yeah, but this is what we experienced after. Now we can actually tell them and give them like this reference point and give them the faith, right? Like have faith. I've done it. I'm on the other side. This is what I'm experiencing now. This is what my children are experiencing now. This is what we as a family are experiencing now. And it's just getting over that hump to the other side. So that's that's the thing that I have here. I mean, the ultimate outcome, right, for everyone that we all want to experience is this peace, the joy, that confidence, that high self-esteem, this like better, this higher elevated way of living that is really just a regulated nervous system. But we're
Mhm.
all so overstimulated now that it's hard to even remember what that feels like, what that looks like, but it's there and we're experiencing it.
Yeah, we're really just dissociating from our lives, from our realities on a regular basis, more
Mhm.
often than not, actually.
Mhm. Yeah. So, I don't know. I get a big smile on my face with this one because I just know what's on the other side of these challenges. And so it's really
Mhm.
super important to identify the challenge. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anything else here?
No, I think I'm ready to move on to the next slide. And we have a beautiful quote here. So here we have this quote that says, "This isn't about control, it is about choice." When we practice discipline, we reclaim our time and our peace. So as we're taking a moment to reflect on this powerful quote by Jim Rohn, it brings to mind that this quote actually encapsulates our journey towards digital detox. It's actually not merely about cutting down our screen time, it's about empowering ourselves and our families to make conscious choices that enhance our lives by one, reclaiming our time. And by doing so, we're practicing discipline and we can shift our focus from mindless scrolling to meaningful activities. Two, we are promoting peace. The less screen time often leads to more mental clarity and more peace, and this is crucial for both adults and children. And thirdly, this actually creates, again, that empowerment. So each of us has the ability to take charge of our digital habits, and this choice can lead to healthier relationships with others as well as with technology. Really love this quote as a representation of everything that we have actually brought to this conversation. And then, just before we are about to transition into our next section, we will discuss engaging accountability activities that can help families, parents, and social workers to promote a balanced digital environment. And that is what I have to share about this slide. What do you have for us?
Oh my gosh, I love this. I love this quote. I love this quote about reclaiming, right? Again, this is so our jam to reclaim. So when we're talking about reclaiming time, I can give everyone a reference point. I'll just share what we've experienced in our family, like what I've experienced and what my children have by detoxing from these digital devices. So me, I am able, so much time has opened up. I'm able to now create, like I have this, I've always wanted my home to be my sanctuary. And so now I've actually been doing all of these projects in the house and everything else to create this sanctuary in our home. I've been able to journal again, which has helped me tremendously about getting out of my head and into my heart. And then also art. Like I am not I've always said I'm not a creative person, but I have discovered that I love art. I love to just doodle and do different things. My kids, when screen time was more limited, my son discovered a love for music. So yes, he was always a kid that was on all wheels and everything all the time, but he discovered a love for music. He started to write his own music and his own lyrics. He started to create his own music and produce it. And in the end, he actually ended up on the radio for a summer. He had a single get out and everything. And then my daughter, what happened there is her creativity exploded. She has always been a very creative person, but she never actually, when she was online all the time, she never had a chance to actually do it. So she exploded. She created her own business called Daisy May, and everything about there, she did everything from art to poetry books to I want to say, oh, the macrame, that's what I was trying to say, like the macrame pieces and everything. And she actually started an Etsy store with that, and her pieces are around the world. She's been able to ship all of her creative pieces and artwork around the world. So that's actually what started there. This other piece about the point number 2, you're talking about actual peace, right? The peace that this brings. Reclaim our peace. I mean, I think it's goes without saying that we're happier. Just as a family, we're happier because we're able to do the things that we love, and it has literally enriched every aspect of our life. And then that third piece where you talked about empowerment, the biggest part about that is that immediately we are able to see where we're not happy. Like immediately we can see where we are not in alignment, and we can see the different pieces in our lives that we're holding on to that aren't making us happy, or that we're holding on to that's holding us down. you talk about relationships actually with that third piece. And I have been able to break a cycle by being in a very healthy relationship versus a toxic one, because I was that person that I did after I went through my first divorce. I did get into two other relationships after that that were heading in that direction, but I was able to break that cycle once I was able to learn about myself, right? A little deeper. My son, he actually has cultivated deep relationships. I was always worried about him possibly recreating that cycle of abuse as well. He has an amazing, healthy relationship with his girlfriend. They're building this beautiful life together. They just actually moved into a home that they built together. And also, they have a roommate, which is one of his friends that he's had since they were 5 years old. So he's been able to cultivate these deep, meaningful relationships. And then my daughter, I mean, she is so empowered in this way. She can immediately see when something is toxic or not for her, and relationships are everything to her. And so whenever she sees that, she is able to immediately let go. But also on the same note, she's able to see immediately what is right for her and those relationships that actually are meaningful to her. And she's able to cultivate these very authentic relationships. And that has been beautiful to witness. So, love, love, love all of this about reclaiming.
It truly has been beautiful to witness.
Mhm. Anything else here?
No, we can move on to the next slide.
Okay.
So here we are at engaging accountability activities. So for this next topic, we are going to talk about the engaging accountability activities for parents and kids, for social workers, as yes, for parents and kids and for social workers. So we're going to be setting for parents and kids, setting family goals for screen-free activities, and then encouraging children to track their own screen time progress. For social workers, we're going to be introducing accountability partners within families, and also using visual tools to track and collaborate digital balance success. Or I'm sorry, celebrate digital balance success. So here again, firstly for the parents and kids, an impactful idea is to set family goals for screen-free activities. This is not only going to foster collaboration, but also strengthens family bonds. So we're going to want to encourage your children to actively track their own screen time progress, which then helps them to develop a sense of responsibility and ownership over their digital habits. Next, for social workers, we will be considering to introduce accountability partners within the families, in the family units. So this can also create a supportive environment where everyone feels empowered to make positive changes together. And additionally, using visual tools can be incredibly effective. They allow families to track and celebrate their success in achieving digital balance. So some really beautiful examples of tracking and celebrating successes that I found were actually reward jars. So each time a goal is hit, a coin or a gem is added to a jar, and then once it is full, it would unlock a self-care treat or an experience. And I love this again, going back to self-care. The next one is actually a mindful moments gallery. So users would upload photos or even draw what they did instead of using devices, creating a growing visual record of joyful tech-free experiences. So instead of, accumulating all of your memories on social media, we're going to actually create a digital, even if it's like a photo frame or, I don't know, there's so many different creative ways to be able to display those. And, again, going back to creating art, drawing, and then just the visual reward and the memories that you get to keep. So it's so important to remember that accountability is a key element in this journey towards digital habits. And so now we're going to take a look at how we can build these healthy habits in our next presentation. The next presentation, as we are moving on to the next slide, unless Lori has something she would like to share here, is going to be focusing on boundaries and communication.
Yeah, just real quick, I wanted to just share two things. With the parents and kids, something that worked really well for us that was not screen free, that my kids have actually brought into their adult lives, is that at the end of the day, we would always connect, always, usually in bed. Like usually it's at this, foot of their bed or whatever. Didn't matter how old they were, either teens and everything. This is what we would do. And I just talked to them and to say, okay, so what was the worst thing that happened today? And then they would tell me. And then I'd say, okay, so what happened because of that, whatever, we'd work through it. And then I'd say, okay, what was the best thing that happened to you today? And then we'd talk about that. And so we always ended it on an up note, right? And it's funny because the kids still do this and they do it with their partners. They still do it with either their friends or their partners or whoever they're with. So it's really, really cool because it cultivates this connection and it's amazing. This part with the social workers and celebrating, digital balance successes. I mean, tech is not bad, right? Tech actually will help us. Technical devices do help us. And one of the ways that it actually did help us and it got us together and connecting as a family and celebrating was like this friendly competition around, how you can download the auto insurance apps and it can like show you like how each other is driving or speeding or heartbreaking. Like that was a way that we were able to do that together as a family, everyone who was on the auto insurance plan. And it was really fun because we actually connected that way too, and just had that friendly competition of like who can drive better, who's going to get the better driving score. And there was no reward. I guess the reward is a cheaper insurance. I don't know. But anyway, I just wanted to share that real quickly before we start to close up this presentation. You can make it fun. It doesn't have to be so strict and so like, oh, we have to do this and oh, we can't use apps and we can't do that. It's just being very mindful of it and being accountable for how you are consuming, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think so much of it has actually got to do with mindset, and it goes back to we're not doing this in order to shame and blame. We can completely and totally shift the entire dynamic around how we're having this experience when we are, we're not operating at a lower frequency, we're operating at a higher frequency. And just, once we're not feeling so anxious and not about not having that direct contact or being able to pick up the device constantly, and we feel clear around our boundaries and we are being accountable, then it completely and totally changes the entire experience.
So good. So good. Okay, are we ready to go to the next one?
Yes.
Okay.
So as we are wrapping up, we're actually going to talk about the next steps, which is all about building healthy habits. And this will be our next presentation that we invite you to join us for if you would feel called. Where, we are now talking about self-accountability, which is the key to a sustainable digital detox. And next, we will be exploring how to set boundaries and communicate effectively around screen use with a focus on nonviolent communication. So as we're moving towards our next steps, let's focus on not only building those healthy habits in our digital lives, but also knowing that self-accountability is essential for a successful digital detox. It empowers us to take charge of our screen time, ensuring we're not just going through the motions, but actively making choices that benefit our well-being. And so now we'll be delving into how to set the clear boundaries around our screen use, which includes effective communication strategies that are rooted in nonviolent communication.
So good. All right. Anything else here?
That is it. I'm just excited and grateful that everyone has joined us and looking forward to those of you who join us for the next presentation.
So excited. So excited. It's going to be so good because healthy habits and nonviolent communication are huge in our development and creating a life that we love. So absolutely love this. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. You're always welcome to join our next live webinar or event. For more information, you can visit or register here. You can call the phone number 435-705-1136. You can go to our website, www.redlotuslife.com. You can also reach out to our email address and ask any questions or seeking any more information at hello@redlotuslife.com. So thank you all for joining us. If you're interested in more CEs and different things like that, we have a whole wealth of information on that website. So we're really excited to dive deeper into the next lesson. Okay, have an amazing rest of your day, and thank you so much again for joining us.